Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm so glad to have you back. This is, of course, the Industry Leader Edition. And this is where we showcase people in the industry like me who play a leadership role wherever they are, usually in office, if you're in a franchise model, or if you can be a dentist and a leader of your office. We have a lot of consumers on too. So we have a great guest today, Rosie Rourke from beautiful Renton, Washington. So Rosie, first off, I just want to say thanks for doing this, because I know as a team leader how busy you are. So I feel lucky that we even have you on here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome, Gary. It's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to do it. So what I want to do here is I want to help out the agents and the consumers today. I want the consumers to know where you are and why it's such a good place to live, and even investors, because right now Washington's what we call a green state. That means the money's coming in. That's because investors are smart and they know a good thing when they see it. But the agents too. We just had the big NAR court case, and veteran agents, we're okay. We know the drill. We've got to create. We have to provide value. We have to demonstrate value, whether it's for sellers or buyers. And it goes back to prior to when we had buyer agency language. We didn't have it until about 25 years ago, maybe 22 years ago.
Right, I remember.
Yeah. So before we get into the details, though, would you mind sharing with people a little bit about yourself? Just kind of paint a picture. How did you get to where you are? Because I know, like me, when I was 5 years old, I was going to be an astronaut. I wasn't going to be a real estate person.
Well, I didn't grow up with aspirations of being a realtor either. I think people just evolve into that passion. And mine evolved when I was in my 20s. So it was in 1996. I had just married my husband. We were married maybe 6 months, and we bought our first house together. And that experience was not a good experience. And at the time, I was working in an office, in a commercial real estate office, in the admin part, not commission anything, but really enjoying for 10 years the commercial real estate aspect of it. And I thought to myself, that person not only didn't help us, it was more of a detriment. I felt like I had to be the person prodding for information, and she barely asked us any questions. We just happened to stumble across a model home, and she was there, and we bought it from her. We didn't know any different. And at that point, I thought there's got to be a better way. And I think that my passion for real estate can be transferred from commercial to residential, and even more so because I love families. I love problem solving, architecture, house, landscape, design. And I can pull all of my loves together and put it into real estate. But more importantly, how can I change the experience for the client, and for them to understand the milestones of a transaction, the pros and cons, how about school districts and such. So I really wanted to be that person. And it evolved from there. So my first year, I was rookie of the year and just had my nose down trying to get business going. And I tried everything that my broker told me to do, and it worked. But I came from a place of fear too. Like, we just bought a house, and I quit my job with the faith that this can work. So I just buckled down. And when I looked up at the end of the year, I'm like, okay, I did it. Now, can I replicate it? And it just grew from there.
Well, you know what? You actually mentioned something really critical. So I'm going to speak to the agents right now. Actually, anybody in any industry. What Rosie said, she just followed the instructions of her teacher, typically the office manager. She was successful. And the reason this is important is a lot of people in this industry are very entrepreneurial, including me, and they want to try to do it on their own. They're like, to listen to us. So you're like, hey, but I think I can do this better. And you might be able to do it better at some point. The key is learn the system the way it's already working today. Don't reinvent the wheel now. Learn the systems today the way they're working today. As you gain experience and insight and instinct, your creative nature will come out. Your entrepreneurial nature will come out. You'll be able to improvise, combine marketing campaigns, and create your own. But do it in a natural way and do it intelligently by learning from someone like Rosie, who's also been through the same thing that you're going through today. So let's go back to you. So you got your license, you had your first year under your belt. At one point, did you feel like, hey, you know what? Um, there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. When I first got my license, I had no clue. I thought I was just going to help people invest in real estate because that's what I wanted to do, and I didn't really have any knowledge or respect to the industry. It changed me completely when I got my license, and I realized, man, this is a really darn good way to make a business. So I like the idea of having a couple business streams, and that's what I did. But for you, was there a tipping point for you that where you got into some kind of leadership role, like mentoring or coaching, or tell us about that? Yeah.
Yeah. I so then fast forward in a decade later after I started, and my husband and I had two small children, and trying to balance that life balance was so hard. I remember when
Mm-hmm.
I barely even had what we would call maternity leave. You don't get maternity leave when you're an independent contractor. So I remember giving birth to my first son, and a couple of weeks later, I was on the road showing houses, and my husband's bringing our infant to me in a parking lot while I, helped feed the baby. And it just, all of these things just, I couldn't be everything to everybody, and I needed life balance. And at that point, it just clicked. Teams weren't really a thing back then when I was
Yeah.
doing this, but I thought I need help. So I started to have my first hire, and then my second, and then my third, and here I am today, a team of 10, small but mighty team. But it's
Mm-hmm.
all about life balance. It's not about, look at me, look how big my company is, aren't I fancy? It's not that. It's out of leverage and resources and balance. I always had said, I can't buy time, but you
Yeah.
can with leverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, all right. Now you just touched on something else that's kind of important. Two things actually. The life balance. So I know a lot of us are probably a lot alike. When we first get started and we start having success, all of a sudden it's like completely inspiring and motivating, and we want more. That's just how humans are. We just want more. And then what happens is you start to notice you've got this phone connected to you almost 24/7. And I remember before I got my license, being out to dinner and watching other people at other tables where somebody's constantly on the phone, where I'm at the dinner with a realtor and other like people from the neighborhood, and she's getting up and we'll dinner going and taking a call. I'm like, wow, how do you do that? Well, now I know why. Now you know, but there is a way to strike that life balance, and it just comes down to having a vision, setting your goals, determining your plans and sticking to them. And part of your plan any day should have downtime. I mean, if you plan every hour of every day, you're gonna burn out. But if you cut out an hour in the morning, you cut an hour in the afternoon, and absolutely at a certain time of night, you got to turn the stuff off because you can always get another transaction, but you can't always get another 3-year-old, you know?
Mhm.
It's a hard lesson to learn. We've all gone through it, and you've done it too. Now, the next thing is you talked about your team. Another critical thing in the growth of a career. Not every agent wants to be a team leader, but every agent wants more. But the ones who have the vision of creating a team, what would you say are like maybe the three biggest lessons you learned? Or what was the first thing you did? And it's the thing that you would have done differently if you could do it over again. That I know I
Mhm.
just gave you like 5 questions. What? Yeah, I know you.
I'm tracking you, Gary, and I'm on it. So I feel like the first couple of the things that kind of struck me at first was I was so scared to hire my first person, because if
Mhm.
I had a personal assistant, now I'm responsible for that person's and their family, their finances. That was a lot of pressure on me. When I started to have a mindset of I'm actually helping to provide for another family, because if
Mhm.
they do their job well, we do well. You have your plan, you work your plan. If I don't work my plan and I don't show up the way I need to show up, we both lose. When I have
Yeah.
her on board, my personal assistant on board, I can show up for all the things. And then if I
Mhm.
know that if my plan is working on all cylinders, she's going to be taken care of. and I'm helping that family, and I'm going to be taking care of and helping my family. And then I
Yeah.
just went from that higher to the next layer to the next layer.
Yeah. Do you now?
You know what though? It is daunting. So when I look at my
Yeah.
budget, I think, holy crap, how am I doing this? But if I
Yeah.
can't look at it like that, because it's
Yeah.
work your plan and the plan will work.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said any better. And I admire you too for growing your production team of 10 people. Now, if you don't mind me asking, did you branch out into other close by markets, other towns? Because with 10 people, now granted, I know in Renton there's probably maybe a few hundred agents in the area, maybe a few thousand, but it doesn't mean there's not room for all of them. But on a team, if you have 10 people, generally you've got to have some different geographic areas. So did you hire sometimes because an agent was in an area where you weren't at that time? Or tell us about like the buyer's agents and listing agents and things like that. And how did you actually
I'm
do
pretty,
that?
yeah, I'm pretty selective of who's on my team. And the
Mhm.
buyers and listing agents that I have, it just so happens they happen to be in my geographic area. I want to talk about my geographic area for a minute. So I live
Yes.
in Renton, a neighborhood specifically called Fairwood. And so
Mhm.
I come from a place of contribution at all times. And in my neighborhood, I'm known for that. So we're doing the recycle events and the shredding events and the turkey trot for Thanksgiving time. And we're having a
Mhm.
girlfriend wine event, and I'm supporting the local women-owned businesses on a vendor fair. I do the Renton Home Show and showcase vendors. I'm giving a lot back to the community to provide value
Yeah.
and also to be a part of the community that I live in, work in, and love. I raised my
Yeah.
boys there. I'm part of the PTA. I donate to all these causes in our area. So that's my passion. As a
Mhm.
result, people that I run into, past clients or people in my neighborhood, I think, oh man, they make a great realtor. It just so happens
Yeah.
they happen to be in that Renton area. But that's not
Okay.
necessarily how you can find your teammate. You're
Right.
going to find your teammate they have all the qualifications and characters and morals that you're looking for to be aligned with. Just
Mhm.
for me, it just happened to be that I was picking people that I know, love, and trust and brought them on
Yeah.
my team. But we don't just do sales in Renton. We do a big bulk of it in Renton because of where we live and our contributions.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go where the client wants to go. So we are,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
Renton, I don't know if the viewers are familiar with where Renton is located. It's just a little bit south of downtown Seattle core, and it's a
Okay.
little bit south of the Bellevue East Side areas. So we
Okay.
have Renton is actually a great location right now and has
Mhm.
been for years because we have
Mhm.
Boeing, Microsoft, Google, some medical tech
Mhm.
companies. We have a lot of great people that are relocating here, wanting to live here.
Mhm.
And Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond on the east side, they're so
Mhm.
expensive. We
Yeah.
have a drove of people coming to Renton, which is the next logical neighborhood south, where it's affordable, good quality of life, good schools, and easy access to the freeways to get to their jobs. And a lot of people
Yeah.
are working virtually anyway, so it works out for them. So we
Yeah.
have this great influx of folks that either want to live or they're moving to relocate somewhere else for their job, but for the most part, they're staying in Renton and just having more of a
Yeah.
move up buyer. Their starter home, now they're going to stay in the
Okay.
neighborhood and move up to a larger home. So for Renton, of course we're selling there, but we're selling anywhere in King County
Okay.
and we go parts of Snohomish County and down to North Pierce County.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to Gary Real Estate with GaryWilson.com. click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care. Okay. Well, I really appreciate this information. For everybody listening, I'm going to tell you this because, I've traveled all over the U.S. and Canada. And Washington State is what's called a green state because that means people are moving in and so is the money. And if you can find an area like Renton, it is going to be a little bit more affordable. So if Rosie, if you don't mind, like compared to Kirkland, because I do have an agent there on my team in Kirkland, and she said this. It's almost like you guys must have spoken to each other before the podcast. And she said the same thing. We had a strategy call, but how is Renton priced relative to like some of those other areas? I mean, a range for like 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-story, or a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch.
In our area, in the Renton area, you can get a very nice family home, 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath, nice community for $750,000 on average. That same house, if you put it up into the Bellevue Kirkland area, you're over $1 million.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah,
easy.
And plus, it's the state itself, like the geography and the natural environment. I mean, you can see Mount Rainier from almost anywhere. I mean, I can see it from Gig Harbor.
It's gorgeous. I was just looking for it out the window. I don't see it, but it's gorgeous. We have Lake Washington. Our downtown Renton has a resurgence and vitality that's happened, and because of the influx of folks coming in. And I just, I'm a native of Seattle. I grew up on Beacon Hill in the city limits there, but my home is now Renton and has been for 30 years.
Yeah. We knew what's really interesting too is a couple of things. The first time I went there and I was teaching in downtown Seattle, overlooking the little harbor there, and all of a sudden this plane comes in, an aquaplane with the 2 pontoons, and I've seen them on television, but never in person. And then another. I said, is this like are these toys for people? No, they said, no, these are commuters. This is how they're commuting in the town to go to work. A lot of them, anyways. I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
It is the coolest thing in the world. We got the San Juan Islands, and that's how people commute by seaplane or helicopter or ferry. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, another thing I've noticed too is a lot of modernization in the way of healthy amenities, like hiking trails, biking trails, things like that. I mean, there's places you can camp out nearby. I mean, it's really awesome. If you don't mind me asking about, because I don't know the answer, but from what I remember, the schools out there are also pretty good too. And there's all kinds of. One thing I love about you and your team and the brokers you're with Keller Williams is the tools for research. You can easily get information on things like the school systems and the industry. It's just at your fingertips. But I know we talked about the industries, but how about public schools and then also higher education? What's available around there for that too,
Yeah. So on our team, we have a lot of moms. And so we're speaking from personal experience of raising our children in some of these school districts. And as me growing up in some of the school districts. So we know them very well. My recommendation, pro tip, is if you're coming into an area you're not familiar with, really contact a real estate agent who knows their stuff. There could be information online, but it's nothing better than getting it from your trusted real estate agent and doing your own research at the schools. But our area over in the Renton, South King County area, we've got some great school districts. We have the Tahoma School District, which serves Maple Valley, Covington areas, Black Diamond. That is an extremely good school. The Issaquah School District is rated real high. We're in the Kent School District. We have the Renton School District. So we have some great school districts. That has never been a problem for anyone coming in. They actually desire the school, so it's never even an issue. If we go over into the city area of Seattle, that is a challenging area where maybe private schools would be a better choice than some, but you can't just put a blanket over all the school district. For example, in the Kent School District, there's some school districts, some school boundaries I would recommend to stay away from because of the schools, and others I would highly recommend. So it's there's nuances and subtleties that a real estate agent can help you with.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not knocking the big cities either, but I just know from experience, and whenever I teach, I gather all the demographics and social graphics and everything about the area. And the problem with the big cities is they do tend to, the public school systems tend to deteriorate, I guess is the correct way to put it, over the years. I don't know all the reasons why. I couldn't even go into them if I wanted to, but it's just a fact of life. Statistically, this all bears out. So when you're out into the suburbs, generally you're going to have better schools. You'll have the blue ribbon schools. I know my kids school had that. They're grown now. My kids are, before long they're going to be they're going to adopt me. They're just going to reverse roles.
It's full
So,
circle, full circle.
yeah,
But also regarding the schools, when I grew up in Seattle, the schools weren't that great, and they still aren't, in my
yeah,
humble opinion, not that great. Not all of them, just some of them where I grew up.
yeah.
And so I ended up going to a private school. So there's some great private schools in the area too. I went to John F. Kennedy High School, a Catholic school. And we and my husband did too. And we thought about our two boys. Should we put them at Kennedy? Had a great education, wonderful experience. But we decided to put them in the public school where we live in Kent schools because those schools were rated very high. And I'm so glad we did because they got to be in the neighborhood with the kids in the neighborhood, not having to drive to a private school. And of course, we got the
Yeah.
University of Washington, go dogs,
Yep.
in the area and for higher education. So there are a lot of community colleges, accredited colleges. It's I'd say we've got it all here.
Good. Hey, I appreciate that. I want to just go back just a second to the housing. Are you aware of any state programs, county programs, local programs now for incentives for people moving in, first-time home buyers, grants, things like that that are available for people? Because I know a lot of clients will say, "Gee, things have gone up so much, I just can't afford to buy whatever's out there. I'm going to wait." But there are ways around that. Just have to look and see. But anything you can think of or you're aware of
Oh yeah.
in Washington State?
Oh, for sure. So they have the down payment assist program, also very popular with first-time homebuyers. So they'll do special loan programs for areas that don't have as much population. So out in the more of the rural areas,
Mhm.
and some that have pockets into the city area too. So a good lender will help direct you for ask about a down payment assistance or even a first time homebuyer program. There's so many new creative ways to get loans. Our interest rates are a roller coaster, aren't they? And they're unpredictable.
Gosh,
And when
yeah.
they climbed really high, we were doing creative things like an interest rate buy down to help the interest rate be more affordable, which means you can have the seller give you a credit to pay down an interest rate point. So instead of, for example, paying 7%, you could pay 6%. Just some of the examples, but that's a very good question to ask a lender.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
And
there's
we have
other
some
things.
good
So I
lenders.
know when I was researching when I wrote my sixth book, um, I researched all the federal programs, and there's like at least 30 of them. They're not all active at the same time, but for example, if you're a teacher, there's often programs for teachers
Oh,
buying
yeah.
houses.
First
Yep.
responders,
Yep, teachers, first responders, and
veterans.
nurses. Yep.
We have a big veteran community here.
Yep.
Mhm.
Even like American Indians,
I was
there's
just going to
programs
say
for
that Native
American Indians.
Americans. Yeah.
Yep. And handicap. And I used to own a
Mhm.
bunch of rentals, and I know I was approached by a tenant one time who was handicapped, and I said, "Look, I'm happy to show you the property, but it's a third floor unit, and it's just not. I know it's not a handicap accessible." He said, "No problem. I've got a grant from the American Disabilities Association. They'll come and do all the remodeling to make it compliant,
Ooh, that's good to
totally
know.
paid for." Yep. All I had to do was sign a piece of paper, and get this: when the tenant moves out, they would undo everything. And I'm like, and after he was there for a year, I was like, I don't want them taking this stuff out because
It's
they
good for
actually also
all.
paid 2 to 3. Yeah, they'll pay 2 to 3 times their prevailing rental rates for accessible units in certain areas where there's a shortage.
Well,
It was an
Gary,
amazing
you
program.
gave me a good nugget today. I'm going to pass that along to my team. So it just goes to show
Yep.
there's so many things out there that
Mhm.
if you talk to some good lenders, and you tell them what your specifics are, they're going to uncover some good things for you.
Yeah, there are. And even with the mortgages. like I know interest rates were 6 and 7%, but when I bought my first house, shoot, this was January 1986. I mean, we were paying, I think, like 11% or something, down from like
I
18%.
know.
Yep.
I
And
know.
then in
People
the
don't remember those things. They
yeah,
don't go back that old. You and I are old.
yeah.
Yeah.
We still have gas in the tank though. We got
We
a lot of
still have
gas in the
gas in the tank. Yeah.
You can always see in the eyes and the smile. You got somebody that's going to be around for a while. But the other thing too is, people often misunderstand. They think, you can't assume mortgages anymore. Well, you can. You just
You
have to
can.
qualify.
That's
Yeah,
right. We've done 2 of them already this year.
awesome. Yeah, VA, FHA, USDA.
Hmm.
And so what we do, we have a platform on our team where we can research and find all the
Hmm.
properties with those three mortgages with an interest rate between 2 and 4%. And now we've got an assumable market we can market to.
Hmm.
Um, but the consumers, if they knew that, so we can find properties with low equity, you know, in other words, 20% or less equity with one of those uh, low interest rate mortgages.
Hmm.
So now the buyer only has to come up with the same amount they'd have to come up with anyways if they wanted to avoid, PMI insurance. Um,
Hmm.
so there's so much you can do as an agent to serve your clients. There's so much the clients can do to give yourself um, an opportunity to buy a home, whether you're a first time home buyer, a move up buyer, a downsizer. I know you've heard this probably too, Rosie, is I'm afraid to sell because then where would I move to?
That's the
Well,
number one thing we hear, and that's what we try
yeah,
and teach our agents to have good conversations about it. And I
yeah,
thank you for bringing it up because it's all about getting the word out. There's ways to buy a home that you don't have to pay just the strict interest rate. But unless
yeah.
we have a conversation with you and get you connected and really fine tune what you need, we're not able to help them. And they're just sitting in their homes thinking, I'm stuck. I call it the golden handcuffs, but you don't. We got the key, right? We got the key to open those cups.
That's exactly right. So, well, let me ask you this. I know we're going to run out of time here, probably quickly, but I want to have everybody have a way to get a hold of you. Is there a website, a team email address?
Sure. Yeah.
And what's the best thing they can do to reach out to you and ask for that help?
Well, I would love that. Thank you. So I work for
Mhm,
Keller Williams and I'm on the Rosie Rourke team. And
mhm.
our team email address is rosierourke.com. And of course, we'll be happy to answer any questions. We'd love to hear from you. And I thank you for the opportunity for being on here.
Well, I'm glad to do it. I mean, you've been a wonderful, gracious guest, and I love the fact that you know your area and you know your business because I'm in the business myself, obviously. And when I first got started, just like you, I didn't have a realtor. She was brand spanking new. We ended up, unfortunately, she was just kind of in observation mode because we'd assumed the guy's first mortgage. He was a veteran. He was in the Navy. And again, this was 1986. We refinanced the second, and then we gave him a note for the remaining equity, which was a third. That one, I was literally just turned 23 years old, graduated college like 30 days before. I was as green as they get. But boy, what a learning experience. And that was what gave me the idea to get my license. So I want to ask you one more question before we go, Rosie. This is sort of the way you can really impact people personally. Is there anything you can draw on from your past? It could have been from a grandparent, your first real coach, like in grade school sports, or your first team leader, your first manager, something they gave you like a golden nugget that you find yourself repeating ever so often, like it's a recurring theme for you. Is there anything you can think of like that?
I'm going to go back to my dad. My
Okay.
dad was an entrepreneur. And I think being exposed to an entrepreneur has allowed me to think with an open mind, and instead of some folks that have grown up in the traditional household where people worked 9 to 5. So my dad had 2 jobs. I'm the last of 6 kids, and dad had
Nice.
2 jobs to keep food on the table. And I'd watched him go do his regular job from 9 to 5, and then he was an entrepreneur, a residential electrician, and had his own business. And I always admired him for that. And it told me I can do that too. Why not me? And even as a woman owned business, I think it's an honor to be able to spread my wings and believe in myself. And that I think stems from my dad.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like an awesome guy. And for one thing, I'm gathering is he had an excellent work ethic, and I'm
Mhm.
sure, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm sure you and your siblings picked up on that,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that too. It's there's a golden nugget, and I just want to tell everybody, I'm telling you, I mean, I wish I could articulate this better than I'm probably going to do, but you really can do anything you set out to do. You just have to have a vision. You've got to have written goals. You've got to have a plan to execute, and you have to execute. And I don't care how hard things get. There's an old saying in the country. Some days you get the bear, some days the bear gets you. But you have to wake up every day, put your boots on, and hit the ground running, and keep swinging the bat. You're going to get grand slam home runs some days, and some days you're going to
Mm-hmm.
strike out.
And
But
Gary, I think,
overall, yeah,
yeah, I was going to say, I think I agree with you 100%. And the number one overarching thing is your mindset. Don't have limiting beliefs in yourself. And
yeah,
along the way, someone may have said, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it's hard to change your mindset. And I want to be able to be an inspiration to folks who know, yes, you can. You can do this. You can do whatever you set your mind to, just like you said, Gary.
I
And
love it. Well,
here I sit with, a multi-million dollar business, empowering 10 women on my team
mhm,
and a part of my community. And my mission has changed a lot over the years. And my mission statement now is I want to create a legacy of contribution. So I
that's
hope that
awesome.
that inspires people as well.
It does. Well, I love when you said yes, I can. You could even say yes, you can. I'm going to always relate that phrase with you now, Rosie, forever, because it hit me when you said it was like a wave of energy, and maybe make that one of your taglines somewhere. Yes,
And
you
like the
can.
Rosie Riveter, yes, we can.
Exactly. That's right. That's a good one. So, well, listen, I appreciate you doing this, Rosie, and for everybody listening, I appreciate you listening. If you want to achieve what you want to achieve, if you're looking to move to the Seattle area, southeast Seattle area, definitely look up Rosie Rourke. She gave you her contact information. We're going to put it in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't worry, you'll see it in the show notes later. But take her up on that. I mean, I've met a lot of leaders over the years. That's what this podcast is all about, is showcasing true leaders. And if you notice, Rosie's coming from the heart. She's coming from contribution. She's not on here selling you anything, guys. She's here to serve you. That's the kind of leader you want. We call them servant leaders because they're the ones that bring the most fulfillment to the most people, and that could be you. So, in any case, please leave a review for the podcast. We love your reviews. That's what makes our world go round. Rosie and I do this as a form of contribution to the community, and we appreciate your feedback on that. So, Rosie, thank you again. Everybody listening or watching, God bless you and your loved ones, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.